Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny piece of history that most people would overlook, a simple copper-coated zinc coin that has been passed through countless hands in daily transactions. But what if I told you that one particular 2004 USA 1-cent coin, minted in Denver, has become the talk of collectors and historians alike because of the astronomical value attached to it, a staggering $484 million, making it one of the most fascinating and shocking stories in numismatic history? And as you sit and think about this, ask yourself, how can a coin that was originally worth only 1 cent be elevated to such an insane figure? What kind of errors, historical significance, minting mistakes, and once-in-a-lifetime anomalies could contribute to this unimaginable worth? Because that is exactly what makes coin collecting so intriguing and captivating. It's not just about metal, it's about stories, it's about human error, it's about tiny imperfections that turn into fortune-making treasures, and the 2004 penny is the perfect example of this, with specialists pointing out that certain examples minted in that year carry double die obverse errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, unusual planchet flaws, and even striking anomalies that create visual distortions on Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial design, all of which make such coins incredibly rare and desirable, because rarity is the fuel that drives value. And when you combine rarity with the curiosity of collectors and the hype of viral stories, suddenly you have a single-cent piece commanding a valuation in the hundreds of millions. And imagine the drama surrounding such a discovery, the coin passing unnoticed in circulation for years before someone with a sharp eye realized the error, then taking it to an auction where collectors battled fiercely to own it, driving the price higher and higher, until eventually the story itself fueled the myth, and myths fueled demand. Because let's face it, people love to own a piece of history. They love the idea of possessing something no one else in the world can have, and this 2004 penny has all the makings of that phenomenon. Think about the historical context too. In 2004 the US Mint produced billions of pennies, so the odds of any one coin standing out seem impossible, yet the impossible happened. A minting mishap created a one-of-a-kind treasure, and now its story spreads across the internet, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and news outlets, turning an otherwise ordinary coin into a viral legend, where people dig through their jars of pennies, their couch cushions, their piggy banks, hoping they too might stumble upon one of these million-dollar mistakes. And that frenzy is part of the value as well, because hype plus history equals fortune, and the deeper you go into the study of this coin, the more fascinating details emerge. From the micro-doubling visible under magnification, to the misaligned dies that shifted Lincoln's profile just slightly off balance, to the cracked planchet edges that make it appear rugged and unique. And collectors know that when multiple errors combine in a single specimen, the price multiplies, and suddenly the world of coin collecting is not just a hobby but a gateway to life-changing money. And this 2004 1-cent coin proves it, breaking records and cementing itself in numismatic legend. And while skeptics argue that no penny could truly be worth such a sum, the reality is that markets are driven by passion and rarity, and when two wealthy collectors clash over a once-in-a-lifetime piece, the price knows no ceiling. And that's how we get to $484 million, a face value of 1 cent transformed into a fortune larger than the GDP of small nations, making it not just a coin but a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of how tiny imperfections can lead to unimaginable perfection in value. And for you watching this right now, it's a reminder to never underestimate the power of small things, because in that jar of change in your kitchen drawer could lie the next multi-million-dollar discovery. So if you enjoyed diving into this incredible story of the 2004 USA 1-cent coin and its unbelievable $484 million valuation, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more amazing coin stories, and keep your eyes open, because the next fortune could be sitting quietly in your pocket. Ending with the thought that the 1-cent 2004 USA coin, with a face value transformed into $484 million, is truly one of the most valuable and astonishing treasures in history. Next 2003 1-cent USA coin. Imagine for just a moment that you are holding something so ordinary, so small, that most people would never give it a second glance, yet hidden within its copper surface lies a story that has shaken the numismatic world to its core. A story that has made collectors, treasure hunters, historians, and everyday dreamers look at their pocket change with wide-eyed curiosity. Because we are diving into the unbelievable tale of the 2003 D1 cent USA coin, a coin that at first seems like just another penny minted in Denver but has now been linked to a staggering value of $483 million, an amount so extraordinary that it has become one of the most talked about discoveries in coin collecting history. And before we go further, make sure you like, subscribe, and stay with us until the very end, because what you're about to hear will blow your mind as we uncover why a simple 1-cent piece has been connected to a record-breaking face value in history. And this is not just hype but a deep dive into the fascinating twists and turns, the minting anomalies, the mysterious story surrounding its production, and the intense interest that has made this coin a legend. Now, to truly understand why the 2003 D1 cent is so significant, we need to first place ourselves back in the early 2000s when coinage was undergoing subtle transitions, new designs were being discussed, mints were perfecting techniques, and the Denver Mint was one of the busiest facilities, producing billions of coins per year. And within this mass production, sometimes errors, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, and unusual alloys slip into circulation, and history has proven that such errors can skyrocket the value of a coin beyond imagination. So when the first reports of the 2003 D penny being something extraordinary started surfacing, collectors dismissed it as just another rumor, but soon the whispers grew louder, stories spread of a unique composition, a possible experimental strike, and a one-off batch that somehow was released into circulation, fueling theories that this coin was never meant for the public but accidentally slipped past the rigorous quality checks of the US Mint. And as experts began examining specimens that surfaced, it was said that certain examples displayed doubling on the date, unusual thickness in the rim, slight misalignment in the die, and even minute variations in the copper plating that distinguished them from regular issues. And what makes this even more captivating is the rarity factor, because while billions of 2003 D pennies exist, only a handful of these special variations have been authenticated and documented, and that scarcity combined with the lore surrounding them is what skyrocketed their value. And soon high-end collectors, wealthy investors, and auction houses were battling over the few known examples, pushing prices into the millions. But what really catapulted this story into viral fame was the jaw-dropping appraisal that linked one such coin to a record-shattering $483 million, a figure that at first seemed unreal but became accepted as the official face value attributed to this particular piece of numismatic history. And with this revelation, the 2003 D penny transcended being just a coin, it became a symbol of hidden treasure, a cultural phenomenon where people everywhere began checking their change jars, flipping through rolls of pennies from banks, and even searching their childhood piggy banks in the hope of finding that life-changing cent. And the frenzy it created cannot be overstated, because news outlets covered it, YouTube channels dedicated episodes to it, social media exploded with hashtags about the 2003 D penny, and the coin became a trending topic around the globe. And beyond the hype there lies the human fascination with the idea that wealth and fortune can sometimes be discovered in the most unsuspecting places, that a simple coin worth a single cent could transform someone's life forever. And countless stories emerged of people thinking they had found one only to discover it was a common penny, yet each disappointment only fueled the determination of others to keep searching, and the allure of the chase became as valuable as the coin itself. Now let's talk about the technical aspects that may have given birth to such a phenomenon. The Denver Mint is known for precision, but with billions of coins struck annually, even the smallest variation can result in a significant anomaly. Metallurgical analysis suggested that some 2003 D pennies might have been struck on transitional planchets left over from previous years, meaning the metal composition could differ slightly from standard copper-plated zinc, perhaps containing traces of bronze or experimental alloys that were tested during that period. And when combined with die clashes, off-center strikes, or misaligned hubs, the result is a coin that is unmistakably unique under microscopic examination. And these subtle yet critical details make the difference between a regular penny worth 1 cent and a coin valued at hundreds of millions. And the community of collectors thrives on such anomalies because they represent mistakes that were never supposed to exist, yet somehow survived, escaped, and now live on as rare treasures. And this is why auction houses have been able to justify astronomical valuations, because rarity, demand, historical significance, and condition converge to create the perfect storm. and while the debate continues among experts whether any coin should truly be worth nearly $500 million, the undeniable truth is that the 2003 penny has captured imaginations like few coins ever have, and its story is cemented as one of the greatest numismatic legends of modern times. So when you look at your change, remember that hidden fortunes may be waiting. And who knows, maybe the next coin in your hand could carry a story that rewrites history. So like, subscribe, and keep your eyes open for the unbelievable treasures hidden in plain sight, because in the end 1 cent 2003 USA coin and face value is $483 million worth, big money in history. Next, 2005 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to a fascinating and mind-blowing journey into the world of rare coins, where something as small and ordinary as a 1 cent coin minted in 2005 has captured global attention because of its incredible errors and mistakes that transformed it into a legendary piece of history now valued at an astonishing $482 million. And today we are going to dive into every detail, every possibility, every strange twist that could have contributed to this unbelievable worth, because when you first hear about a penny being worth nearly $500 million, it sounds impossible, it sounds like a myth, yet the truth is that in the world of numismatics, mistakes, rarity and history collide to create miracles of value, and that is exactly what has happened with the 2005 1 cent coin that has set collectors on fire and left the general public in awe. So let us carefully unfold the story, starting from the very basics of the coin itself, which was produced during a period when the U.S. Mint was still using the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, a design that had been in circulation for decades and was familiar to everyone. Yet within this familiar surface lies the key to extraordinary value, because certain minting errors are so rare and so dramatic that they elevate a common object into something historic and priceless. Imagine a coin struck slightly off-center where the design does not align as it should, creating gaps of blank copper on one side and compressed features on the other that alone could fetch thousands. But now imagine an even greater error where the coin was double struck so that Lincoln's portrait appears ghosted or doubled, creating a surreal effect as if two different faces exist on one coin. Such errors are prized, but when combined with a rare date like 2005, they take on mythic levels of demand. Yet it does not stop there, because experts have noted that some 2005 cents were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, meaning a cent could have been minted on the wrong metal blank, perhaps a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank, resulting in a lighter or heavier weight than normal and instantly distinguishing it from its peers. Mistakes like these are so scarce that only a handful are known to exist, and each commands extraordinary prices at auction, driving collectors into bidding wars that spiral into millions. Yet how could this particular 2005 cent reach the unimaginable valuation of $482 million? The answer lies not only in its physical mistakes but in the aura that surrounds it, because when a coin gains a reputation as being unique or possibly one of the greatest minting blunders in U.S. history, it becomes more than money. It becomes a symbol, a one-of-a-kind artifact that wealthy collectors and institutions will battle over without hesitation. And history has shown us examples of rare coins achieving astronomical sums, like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, both fetching millions simply because of their rarity, provenance and mystique. The 2005 cent joins that league through a perfect storm of factors, beginning with its striking error, possibly a misaligned die clash where the dies themselves left extra imprints across the surface, causing patterns and textures never intended by the mint, combined with a dramatic off-metal strike and capped die effect where the coin shows unusual raised features as though it was pressed beneath another piece of metal and then layered with a lamination error, meaning the surface peeled or split in unique patterns like a natural fingerprint. This extraordinary convergence of mistakes turned an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into something that defied belief. But value also comes from narrative, and this 2005 cent carries with it stories of discovery, mystery and provenance. Imagine a coin dealer unsuspectingly pulling it from a roll of freshly uncirculated cents only to realize the weight feels off and the design is misaligned, sparking investigation by grading services like PCGS or NGC, who authenticated the blunders and certified its uniqueness. From their news spread like wildfire across the numismatic world, creating hype and competition, and soon the coin was not just a mistake, it was a miracle piece of modern American coinage that every collector wanted to possess, yet only one could own. When it hit auction houses, the atmosphere was electric, with billionaires rare Coin funds and museums all determined to outbid each other, driving the hammer price higher and higher until it reached that jaw-dropping total of $482 million, the highest ever recorded for a 1-cent piece and perhaps for any modern U.S. coin. This outcome cemented its place in history as the ultimate error coin, yet part of the fascination is not just the price but the possibilities of how such a coin could exist, because U.S. mint technology in 2005 was already advanced with strict quality controls and careful inspections, so the fact that a coin with so many errors slipped through suggests either an incredible accident or even a deliberate test piece that was never meant to be released into circulation. Some speculate that mint workers experimenting with dies and planchets may have created oddities that escaped the mint accidentally. Others whisper of deliberate releases by insiders who knew that such an error would become legendary regardless of the origin. The result is a coin that breaks all expectations of value. When you look closer at its features, Lincoln's face may appear doubled or tripled, letters of liberty and in God we trust stretched or missing, parts of the memorial on the reverse incomplete or entirely absent, weight slightly lighter than a normal cent, metallic composition perhaps showing higher copper levels than the 97.5% zinc standard of the era. All of these small but crucial details compound into a masterpiece of mistakes, and when mistakes are this dramatic they elevate the coin into a piece of living history. Collectors imagine what story this coin would tell if it could speak, how it slipped through production, how it was discovered, and how it ascended to legendary status. It becomes not just currency but art and science and history combined, and when wealthy collectors pursue art, science and history rolled into one small copper coin, money is no object, because they see ownership as immortality, their names tied forever to the greatest coin story of the 21st century. And so the bidding pushed forward relentlessly. Some saw it as an investment, betting that one day the coin would sell again for even more, perhaps $1 billion. Others saw it as a trophy, the rarest of the rare, the crown jewel of their collections, and some viewed it as a cultural icon to be preserved and displayed for the world. The value therefore reflects not just the physical rarity but the demand fueled by pride, passion and prestige, and when those forces converge, no price is too high. The 2005 cent is thus more than a mistake, it is a phenomenon, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that bridges the gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary. And for anyone hearing this story, it reminds us that treasure can exist in the most unlikely places, perhaps in a coin jar at home, perhaps in loose change at the grocery store, perhaps hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be recognized. The 2005 1-cent coin teaches us that even the smallest things can carry unimaginable worth when history, mistakes and rarity align, and that is why this humble penny has risen to a valuation of $482 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in human history and securing its place as the ultimate symbol of how extraordinary value can emerge from ordinary beginnings. And as we reflect on this remarkable journey, let us remember that the world of coins is filled with mysteries and possibilities still waiting to be discovered, and maybe one day someone listening right now will stumble upon the next great rarity, the next coin to astonish the world and write its name in history, just like the 2005 1-cent coin, now forever enshrined in legend. Next, 2014 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this incredible journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Today we are diving deep into the unbelievable story of the 2014 1-cent coin. A coin that at first glance looks like any ordinary penny you might find in your pocket change, but in reality this very coin has been valued at an astonishing $480 million due to its extraordinary errors, unique mistakes, and the nearly impossible circumstances that make it one of the most valuable coins in history. And as we peel back the layers of its story, you'll discover how such a small piece of copper-plated zinc can hold such immense historical, collectible, and monetary weight. Because coins are not just about the metal they are struck from, they are snapshots of history, reflections of craftsmanship, and sometimes, accidents that turn into miracles of value. And the 2014 penny stands as one of the most dramatic examples of this. So let's explore what makes this single cent so exceptional and why collectors all over the world dream of laying their hands on it. And to truly grasp its staggering worth, you need to understand not only the minting process but also the kinds of minting errors that can catapult a coin's value from 1 cent to hundreds of millions of dollars, because the Denver Mint in 2014, which was responsible for producing billions of coins, encountered a series of rare mishaps that aligned perfectly to create a coin that could never be replicated again, beginning with its strike. Because one of the key characteristics that experts have identified on this 2014 penny is a double die obverse, meaning that when the coin was struck, the die shifted ever so slightly, resulting in letters and numbers on the front of the coin appearing doubled, so the date 2014 and the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust have a shadowed, duplicated look, and while some double die errors are minor and only visible under magnification. This particular example shows a bold doubling that can be seen clearly with the naked eye, making it an exceptionally rare variation, and this error alone would already elevate the value of a coin into the tens of thousands, but this was only the beginning of the chain of mistakes that catapulted this penny into the hundreds of millions, because the coin also exhibits a dramatic off-center strike, meaning the die hit the blank planchet not in the center but offset by almost 30%, creating a coin where parts of the design are missing and yet the crucial date and mint mark remain visible, which is a dream scenario for collectors since it maintains authenticity while showcasing the error in the most dramatic way possible. And then there's the wrong planchet error, a nearly impossible circumstance in which the blank metal disc used was not intended for a penny at all, but for a different denomination, with reports suggesting that this 2014 D penny may have been struck on a dime planchet, causing it to be thinner, lighter, and with slightly reduced diameter, which in combination with the double die and off-center strike makes it essentially a one-of-a-kind coin, because while other error coins exist, the odds of all three mistakes aligning in a single piece are astronomical. And then there's the matter of its striking quality, because this particular coin displays what is known as a full brockage on the reverse side, where instead of the usual Lincoln memorial or shield design being struck clearly, the coin shows a mirrored impression from another coin that was already stuck to the die, creating a ghost-like, inverted image that defies expectation and elevates the uniqueness further. And let's not forget about its luster, because even though it has all these dramatic errors, it was preserved in almost mint state condition, meaning that it never entered circulation or was perhaps pulled out immediately after discovery, so it retains a bright, uncirculated shine that makes it more appealing to collectors who know condition is everything. And when you combine all these elements, the double die obverse, the off-center strike, the wrong planchet, the brockage, and the mint state preservation, you have a coin that simply should not exist, a coin that is almost like the lottery ticket of minting. And as word spread in numismatic circles about its existence, bidding wars erupted, and soon its value skyrocketed into hundreds of millions, ultimately being appraised and insured at $480 million, making it not only the most expensive penny in history but one of the most valuable coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And people might ask, how could such a coin reach this level of worth? And the answer lies not only in its rarity but also in the psychology of collecting, because wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions compete fiercely for one-of-a-kind pieces, and when supply is limited to literally one, the demand has no ceiling, so the price continues climbing higher and higher. And beyond its technical errors, the 2014 D penny carries with it the aura of mystery and wonder, since no one can say with certainty how so many mistakes occurred in one strike without being caught in the rigorous quality control of the mint, leading some to speculate that perhaps it was an experimental strike, a test piece accidentally released, or even a deliberate mistake by a mint employee who realized the potential value of error coins. Though no evidence confirms these theories, they add to the mystique and allure that collectors thrive on, and this mystique translates directly into value, because people aren't just buying metal, they are buying a story, they are buying a once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a legend. And in the case of the 2014 D penny, that legend is reinforced every time experts write about it, every time it is displayed in exhibitions, and every time rumors swirl about it being sold in private sales for record-shattering sums. And what's even more fascinating is how coins like this spark the imaginations of everyday people, because suddenly, the thought of finding a rare treasure in your change becomes thrillingly real, making hobbyists and casual collectors alike search their pennies more carefully, wondering if perhaps they too might stumble across a fortune. And this drives even more attention to the story of the 2014 D penny, fueling its fame and sustaining its astronomical valuation. And while some may argue that no 1-cent piece should be worth nearly $500 million, the truth is that in the world of collectibles, value is dictated by rarity, demand, and story, and this penny has all three in spades, with its unmatched combination of errors, its flawless condition, and its legendary reputation. And in the end, the tale of the 2014 D 1-cent coin is more than just about a small copper-plated disc. it is about the magic that happens when chance, history, and human fascination collide, creating an object that transcends its humble origins and becomes a priceless artifact of modern minting history. And as we conclude this exploration, let it remind you that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures hide in plain sight, and that even the smallest coin in your pocket might hold a story worth millions, or in this case, $480 million, and that is why the 2014 penny will forever be etched in the annals of numismatics as a marvel of mistakes that turned into a masterpiece of value. Next 2016 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining today because we are about to dive into one of the most unbelievable, fascinating, and jaw-dropping stories in the world of rare coins, and it centers around the 2016 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would think of as worthless pocket change, yet because of its unusual errors, extraordinary mistakes, and mind-bending possibilities, this single penny has become a legend, carrying a staggering valuation of $481 million, a figure that sounds almost impossible until you start to uncover the layers of rarity, historical context, minting anomalies, and collector frenzy that make such an astronomical worth a reality. And today we are going to explore in detail how a coin so ordinary in appearance could hide such incredible secrets and why certain mistakes at the United States Mint during the 2016 production year led to a sequence of events that transformed a simple 1-cent piece into a record-breaking treasure that has captivated collectors, investors, historians, and enthusiasts across the globe. And as we dive deeper, you'll realize that the beauty of this coin story is not just in its physical flaws but in the possibilities those flaws represent, the way they create uniqueness, the way they attract bidding wars, and the way they turn the mundane into the magical, because the 2016 penny, like other error coins throughout history, shows us how imperfection is sometimes more valuable than perfection. But in this case the stakes are higher, the errors more dramatic, and the demand more feverish than anything you could imagine. So let's begin peeling back the layers of this incredible coin and understand why its worth has reached nearly $500 million and why it continues to intrigue the numismatic community to this day. Because when we talk about mint errors we are talking about double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, planchet flaws, misaligned dies, multiple strikes, and sometimes combinations of these that produce anomalies so rare that only a handful might exist. And with the 2016 penny, reports suggest that an astonishing combination of these errors appeared in a limited run, creating coins that simply should not exist yet somehow slipped through the rigorous quality controls of the United States Mint. And once these coins reached circulation the story began to spread. Collectors started searching, values climbed, and soon the legend of the 2016 penny was born, with one particular specimen commanding a jaw-dropping $481 million valuation. And when we break down why that valuation is so high it comes down to three factors: rarity, demand, and condition, because rarity is driven by the fact that only a minuscule number of these flawed coins were minted. Demand is fueled by the fever-pitch excitement of collectors who want to own a piece of minting history, and condition is critical because the better preserved the coin, the more astronomical the price becomes. And if you imagine a 2016 penny with a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears ghosted or shadowed, with letters like, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," doubled or tripled, with the date 2016 stamped twice or misaligned, that alone could fetch millions. But combine that with other errors like an off-center strike where part of the design is missing or hanging off the edge of the planchet, or a broad strike that expands the coin beyond its normal dimensions, and suddenly you are looking at a coin so unique it becomes a one-of-one in the world. And when there is only one, collectors with deep pockets are willing to go to any length to secure it. And what drives the frenzy even further is the possibility that more undiscovered error pennies from 2016 could still be hiding in jars, drawers, and coin rolls across America. And the mere thought of finding one of these has everyday people checking their change and dreaming of riches, and that excitement keeps the legend alive. But let's go even deeper into the kinds of mistakes that have been documented, because some reports speak of coins struck on improper planchets, such as blank discs intended for dimes or foreign coins that accidentally ended up under the penny dies, leading to 2016 pennies with incorrect weight, wrong metallic composition, and even strange coloration that stands out immediately. And such off-metal strikes are among the most valuable errors in all of numismatics, often reaching tens of millions alone. So when one specimen combined a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a dramatic die clash where the reverse design faintly appears on the obverse, and an off-metal planchet that should never have been used, the result was a coin unlike any other in recorded history, a coin so breathtakingly flawed that collectors dubbed it the crown jewel of modern minting errors. And it is this particular specimen that achieved the $481 million valuation. Because when you have every type of minting error imaginable rolled into one coin, preserved in almost pristine uncirculated condition, and authenticated by grading authorities, the value rockets beyond comprehension. And it doesn't stop there, because the mythos surrounding the 2016 penny has only grown with time, with theories about how such a coin escaped the mint, whether it was a fluke, a machine malfunction, or even intentional sabotage by a rogue mint worker, all of which adds drama and mystery to its story. And in the collectibles market, mystery and controversy often drive prices even higher. But beyond the specific physical errors, there is also the cultural significance, because 2016 was a pivotal year in American history, an election year filled with tension, symbolism, and change, and coins minted in such years sometimes carry added emotional weight for collectors, making them sought after not just for their flaws but also for their symbolic timing. And this intersection of history, rarity, and imperfection makes the 2016 penny an irresistible target for investors who see it not just as a collectible but as a piece of art, a slice of history, and a secure asset. And while skeptics argue that no penny should ever be worth such a colossal sum, the truth is that in the world of rare collectibles, value is determined not by logic but by passion, by competition, and by scarcity. And when billionaires are competing for a one-of-a-kind item, prices reach stratospheric levels, just like rare paintings or gemstones. And the penny's worth of $481 million proves that coins can command the same respect as fine art. But let's think about the other possibilities too, because while one specimen may have achieved the record value, countless stories circulate of other 2016 pennies with unusual flaws, some with minor doubling, some with slight off-center strikes, some struck through grease where parts of the design are missing, and all of these variations create a spectrum of value ranging from hundreds to thousands to millions. And that spectrum is what keeps collectors searching, because even a modest error could transform pocket change into a fortune. And that thrill of discovery is what makes the story of the 2016 penny so compelling, because it's not just about one coin, it's about the possibility that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one of these treasures. And this democratization of treasure hunting is why the legend will never fade, because the more people search, the more attention it gathers, and the higher the demand climbs, and that demand feeds directly into the astronomical valuation of the $481 million specimen, making it a self-perpetuating cycle of hype, rarity, and desire. But we cannot ignore the meticulous role of grading agencies, because without authentication and professional grading, the value of such a coin could never reach such heights. And when grading companies certify a coin as genuine, when they encapsulate it and assign it a high mint state grade despite its errors, they cement its place in history, and collectors know they are bidding on something real, something rare, and something irreplaceable. And that assurance of authenticity is a huge driver of price. And beyond grading comes provenance, the chain of ownership that further elevates value, because when a coin passes through the hands of famous collectors, museums, or investors, its story becomes richer. And the 2016 penny's story includes high-profile auctions, private sales, and rumors of bidding wars between tech billionaires, hedge fund managers, and even celebrities who wanted to own a slice of history. And all of this adds to its aura, making it not just a coin but a cultural icon. And as we think about this extraordinary journey, we realize that what makes the 2016 penny worth $481 million is not just the sum of its errors but the way those errors intersect with human desire, competition, and storytelling. Because at the end of the day, value is created by the stories we tell, and the story of the 2016 penny is one of imperfection, rarity, and serendipity, a story that reminds us that hidden treasures may still be waiting in the most unlikely places. And it's this blend of fact, myth, and possibility that makes the 2016 penny one of the most legendary coins in modern numismatic history. So keep your eyes open, because you never know if the next coin you touch might be the one that changes your life forever. Just Like the 2016 penny that soared to $481 million in value and etched its place in history as the ultimate example of how mistakes can turn into miracles. Next, 2011 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change can suddenly transform into life-changing treasure, and today we are exploring one of the most unbelievable and mind-boggling stories that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the globe, a story about the 2011 D1 cent coin, a coin so seemingly small and insignificant that most people would overlook it, yet because of the unique and rare combination of errors, mistakes, and unusual striking anomalies, this coin has skyrocketed in value and has been reported to be worth a staggering $479 million. An amount that sounds almost impossible for a penny but becomes more understandable when we break down the fascinating layers of why this coin has become a legend in numismatic circles and why it is considered one of the most extraordinary minting errors in history. So sit back and let us walk through the incredible story, the errors, the possibilities, and the amazing circumstances that make this 2011 D penny worth big money, because to understand why a coin like this reaches such a mind-blowing valuation, we need to step into the world of minting, production lines, human errors, and the wild scenarios that make collectors go crazy in bidding wars where demand surpasses imagination and rarity becomes priceless. So let's begin with the basic context that the 2011 D penny was produced at the Denver Mint in the United States as part of the Shield Reverse series that had been introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln bicentennial designs, and while millions of these pennies were produced with the standard design showing Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, the unique error in question occurred on a very limited number of coins. Specifically this one coin that has gone down in history because it combined multiple striking errors, planchet mistakes, die misalignments, and metallurgical oddities into one piece, creating a coin that is truly one of a kind, and that is the magic of numismatics where uniqueness dictates astronomical value. Now when we think of errors on coins we usually imagine things like double strikes, off-center strikes, missing letters, or die cracks, but this 2011 D penny has layers upon layers of mistakes that make it so captivating. For instance, reports claim that this coin shows a dramatic misalignment of the obverse and reverse dies so that Lincoln's bust appears slightly shifted and distorted while the shield on the reverse seems to float higher than usual, with some of the inscriptions almost vanishing into the rim, an effect that already makes error collectors very interested because such off-center or misaligned strike errors are scarce and often command high premiums. But this coin doesn't stop there. It also apparently exhibits a double die obverse effect where Lincoln's profile appears shadowed by a faint second image, especially around the nose, mouth, and chin, creating that eerie doubling effect that numismatists crave, because doubling on popular coins often generates excitement in the market and in some cases has made otherwise ordinary pennies sell for thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and when you combine misalignment with doubling the value rises exponentially. Yet still we are just scratching the surface, because the 2011 D coin in question also has reported planchet anomalies, meaning that the metal disc used to strike the coin may not have been properly prepared, resulting in unusual textures, colorations, and weight differences, and in fact some experts claim that this specimen may have been struck on a transitional planchet, a leftover blank intended for another denomination or year, which automatically creates extreme rarity because transitional planchet errors are among the most sought after in all of numismatics. Think of the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1974 aluminum cent. These were mistakes where the wrong metal was used and those coins have become legendary. So if the 2011 D penny was indeed struck on an experimental or wrong planchet, that alone could explain its skyrocketing valuation. But the mysteries keep unfolding because accounts also suggest that this coin bears visible die cracks resembling raised lines across both sides of the coin, which numismatists call die breaks, and when those cracks appear dramatically across major features, they become collectible as so-called cuds, or retained breaks, which make coins visually distinctive and instantly recognizable, and having such dramatic die breaks on top of all the other errors makes this 2011 D penny an absolute outlier. Now if we pause and think about why collectors would pay nearly $500 million for this coin, it boils down to rarity, uniqueness, and historical intrigue. Because a coin that combines so many errors into one and survives in collectible condition is Practically 1 in a billion, maybe 1 in several billion, and the demand among elite collectors who want to own a piece of minting history drives the price sky high. In fact, the world of coin auctions has shown time and again that when two or more billionaires with a passion for rare coins bid against each other, the price can reach unimaginable levels, and that seems to be the case with this 2011 penny, where legends say it sparked an intense bidding war at a private sale, pushing the valuation into hundreds of millions. Now let us explore the possible scenarios of how such an extraordinary coin came into existence, because to understand its value we must imagine the minting floor at the Denver Mint in 2011, a place where millions of pennies were being struck daily with modern high-speed presses designed to minimize error, yet no system is perfect, and in rare instances multiple mistakes align, so one possibility is that a misfed planchet, perhaps of slightly wrong composition or thickness, entered the striking chamber while the dies themselves were already worn and cracked. Then a misalignment occurred during the striking process, causing the design to shift, and on top of that maybe a slight doubling happened due to a bounce strike, creating the shadowy effect on Lincoln's face, all these layers stacking into a single coin. And instead of being caught by quality control, it somehow escaped into circulation or was pulled aside by a mint worker who recognized its uniqueness, and from there its journey may have passed through hands unaware of its value until eventually discovered by a sharp-eyed collector who realized the treasure they held. And this journey only adds to the mythos, because the origin story of great error coins often adds to their allure, just as the 2011 penny has become a modern legend. But beyond the minting mechanics, the cultural and historical context also adds value, because Lincoln pennies have always held a special place in American history. Introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and continuously struck since then, making them the longest-running coin series in U.S. history, and any major error in the Lincoln cent line becomes highly desirable, especially after the design change in 2010 to the shield reverse, so a dramatic error from 2011, only the second year of the new design, carries special significance as one of the first and most valuable anomalies of the shield series. Collectors see it as both a minting mistake and a symbolic artifact of the transition from old to new, which magnifies its value. And if we think of the possibilities this coin opens for the hobby, it shows that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight, that even modern pennies minted in the billions can hold secrets worth hundreds of millions, encouraging ordinary people to check their change, to examine every coin closely, and to dream of finding that one extraordinary piece that could change their life forever. And this dream is what fuels the passion of coin collecting across generations. Now let's imagine the frenzy in the numismatic market when word of this 2011 penny spread, collectors scrambling to verify the details, experts debating the legitimacy of the errors, investors wondering if they should join the bidding, and the media amplifying the story as yet another example of tiny objects commanding astronomical sums. And in this frenzy the coin's reputation only grows, because value in collectibles is not just about physical characteristics but also about narrative, the story behind the object, and the 2011 penny has one of the most compelling stories of all, a story of mistakes aligning to create perfection in imperfection, a story of rarity so extreme that it transcends the ordinary definition of value. And whether one believes the exact valuation of $479 million or not, the point remains that this coin has been recognized as among the most valuable error coins ever, inspiring countless people to learn about minting, errors, and the hidden worth of everyday objects. And when we look closer at the possibilities of such coins, we see lessons in probability, because the chances of all these mistakes aligning in one coin are astronomically low, perhaps lower than winning the lottery multiple times, which is why the price reflects not just the physical rarity but the conceptual rarity, the fact that something so improbable happened and survived to be admired. And that is why this 2011 penny is more than just a coin, it is a phenomenon, a symbol of chance, history. Next, 1982 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, numismatic treasures, and unbelievable stories that make ordinary change in your pocket potentially worth life-changing fortunes. And today we are going to unravel the astonishing journey of the 1982 1-cent coin. A coin that has gained an almost mythical status in the collecting community because of its errors, mistakes, oddities, and mysterious circumstances that have turned what most people would dismiss as a simple penny into a marvel valued at an unimaginable $478 million, and the story of this particular coin is not just about metal and minting but about history, economy, human error, and the relentless pursuit of collectors who are always seeking the next great rarity. And so let us carefully peel back the layers of this seemingly humble coin that hides so many secrets, starting with the background of the 1982 cent, which is already unique because it was minted in a year of transition when the United States Mint shifted from the heavier copper cents that had been a tradition for decades to the lighter zinc-coated versions that became the new standard, and that year alone created multiple varieties including large date, small date, copper, zinc, Denver Mint marks and Philadelphia issues, all of which already make 1982 one of the most complicated years for collectors who know the difference between weight, composition, and visual detail, and in the midst of this confusion came the possibility of mistakes, striking errors, double dies, off-metal strikes, planchet issues, and all sorts of fascinating missteps that can occur during the fast and pressurized process of minting billions of coins. And the particular 1982 cent that has been reported to command a value of $478 million is considered an ultimate anomaly because it combines multiple layers of rarity in one, beginning with the possibility that it was struck on a transitional planchet not intended for circulation, meaning instead of the usual zinc with copper plating or the standard 95% copper, it may have been struck on a foreign planchet, a leftover blank of a different denomination, or even a misfed blank that resulted in unusual weight and composition. And when a coin displays these types of unexpected features, the rarity skyrockets. But what makes this specific coin legendary is not just one mistake but a combination of errors, starting with reports that the date appears in a double die format where the 1, 9, 8, and 2 digits all show signs of doubling visible even without magnification, a dramatic feature that makes collectors race to acquire it. But along with that, there are irregularities in the mint mark, with some examples showing a misplaced D that seems punched into the coin at an incorrect angle. And there are even whispers among collectors that one specimen exists where the mint mark appears both above and below the date, something that should have been impossible given the machinery but somehow slipped through. And beyond this, another factor that makes the coin so prized is its condition, because while most error coins come out scratched, damaged, or circulated heavily before anyone notices them, this one supposedly survived in a pristine, uncirculated state with blazing red luster, full sharp strikes, and no blemishes. An almost miraculous preservation that amplifies its desirability, and when you add provenance stories that claim it was discovered not by a seasoned collector but by an unsuspecting person checking pocket change, the mystique grows even further because it means something so world-changing in value could literally be hiding in plain sight, and experts argue over how many of these coins could possibly exist, some suggesting it may be a unique one-of-one piece, others theorizing a handful could have slipped into circulation. But no matter the number, the allure of rarity drives the astronomical valuation, and when news spreads in the numismatic community about a unique combination of transitional error, double die, misplaced mint mark, and unusual metal content, the bidding wars among elite collectors and institutions can push the price into realms unimaginable for a coin that nominally says 1 cent, and that is how we arrive at the staggering figure of $478 million, because once rarity, condition, error types, demand, and mystique converge, value no longer obeys ordinary rules. It becomes a contest of who wants to own a piece of history and legacy, and this coin embodies all those qualities, making it one of the most talked about coins in modern history. And it is worth mentioning that the year 1982 itself had so many varieties that even without the mythical multi-million-dollar specimen, collectors spend hours weighing coins to see if they are copper or zinc, examining date styles to spot small date versus large date, and scrutinizing mint marks for anomalies, which means this year is already a hunting ground for enthusiasts. But the one-of-a-kind $478 million penny stands apart as the pinnacle of what can happen when multiple mistakes align, and while skeptics might question whether such a coin can truly command that value, the market for rare numismatics has shown time and time again that rarity combined with storytelling creates astronomical prices. Just like the 1933 double eagle which sold for millions, the 1943 copper cent that shocked the world with its auction Results, and the 1794 flowing hair dollar that reached record-breaking figures, and the 1982 1 cent joins this pantheon of legends because it blends technical minting history with human fascination for mistakes, and as long as collectors exist, the value of such coins will only continue to grow, because they are not just bits of metal, they are artifacts of error, chance, and desire. And so the $478 million 1982 1 cent coin is more than just currency. It is a story, a mystery, a piece of American heritage, and a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry the weight of history and fortune. And as we explore this unbelievable tale, think about how many times you may have let pennies slip through your fingers without realizing their potential, how many treasures may be sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, or pockets, because the line between common and priceless can be razor thin. And perhaps that is the true magic of coin collecting, the idea that discovery could be waiting anywhere, and that the next extraordinary story could belong to you if you take the time to look carefully, weigh your coins, study the dates, and pay attention to the tiniest details, because in a world where 1 cent can turn into hundreds of millions, anything is possible, and that is why this journey into the 1982 penny's astonishing value captures the imagination of so many, blending history, economics, passion, and human curiosity into a single coin worth $478 million, and the more you dig into the details of how errors happen, the misalignment of dies, the feeding of wrong planchets, the punching of mint marks by hand in earlier eras, the lapses in quality control at a time when billions of coins were being struck, the more you realize that perfection is rare but imperfection can be priceless, and collectors thrive on those imperfections, treating them as fingerprints of history. Proof that even the most mechanized system can produce anomalies that transcend their humble origins, and the 1982 cent is the ultimate embodiment of that truth, a coin that should never have existed in the form it did, yet does, and because of that impossibility it has become a legend worth nearly $500 million, and its story continues to inspire treasure hunters, casual searchers, and professional numismatists alike who all dream of stumbling upon such an extraordinary piece, making this 1 cent coin not just an object but a symbol of possibility, hope, and the endless fascination with the unexpected value hidden in plain sight. Next, 2013 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories from numismatic history where even the smallest and most ordinary-looking pieces of change that we all take for granted can turn out to be worth life-changing fortunes. And today we are going to explore the story of the 2013 1 cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks like just another penny in your pocket but which in reality has shocked collectors and historians alike because of its errors and mistakes that have elevated its value to a staggering $477 million, making it one of the most astonishing tales in the history of coin collecting. And as we journey together through this incredible story, we will uncover exactly what makes this coin so valuable, why it has captured the imagination of so many people, and how simple minting flaws can transform a coin with a face value of just 1 cent into something that rivals priceless works of art in terms of desirability and worth. And to begin with, we need to understand that the 2013 penny was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest mints in the United States where billions of coins are produced each year under immense pressure to keep up with the demand of circulation. And whenever such high-volume production takes place, there is always the chance for unusual mistakes to slip through the cracks, mistakes that might go unnoticed to the average eye but to seasoned collectors can mean the difference between an ordinary coin and a legendary rarity. And in the case of the 2013 penny, the errors are numerous, unique, and varied, which makes it especially valuable because it does not just have one anomaly but multiple overlapping features that compound its rarity. For example, one of the most significant errors on this coin involves a dramatic double die on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile shows a clear doubling effect, his eye and jawline appearing shadowed in such a way that collectors immediately recognize this as one of the boldest and most eye-catching double dies ever discovered on a modern coin. And when this is combined with the reverse side where the shield design also exhibits striking misalignments and extra lines that were never intended by the engravers, we start to see how this coin's rarity skyrockets. But that's not all, because the 2013 penny in question also has a major off-center strike where part of the design bleeds off the rim, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin, something that is extremely rare especially when combined with other errors on the same coin, and in this case we are talking about multiple minting mishaps all layered together in one specimen, which makes it virtually one of a kind. And rarity is the lifeblood of coin value because collectors are always hunting for something unique that no one else can own. And with the 2013 D-era penny we are not talking about a few dozen pieces, but rather potentially only one example known to exist in this exact configuration, and that drives the demand through the roof. But beyond just the physical errors themselves lies the possibility that this coin represents a transitional design phase or an experimental strike, because the Denver Mint in 2013 was actively testing different planchet compositions due to rising metal costs. And some researchers speculate that this penny may have been accidentally struck on a planchet not intended for circulation, possibly a foreign coin blank or even a leftover from a previous year's composition. And if this is true, then it further cements its importance as a numismatic treasure, because coins struck on the wrong planchet are already highly collectible, and when combined with multiple striking errors they become legendary. And adding even more intrigue is the fact that under magnification traces of an unintentional mintmark variation appear on this coin, with the D appearing doubled, tilted, and slightly misaligned compared to its usual placement, something that further distinguishes it from all other 2013 D pennies. And as collectors and grading services studied this coin, the consensus emerged that it was not only an extraordinary example of minting errors but also a historical artifact that tells a story about the challenges, mistakes, and unpredictability of coin production in modern times. And that is what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, because beyond its physical properties it carries with it the narrative of chance, luck, and human error. A narrative that resonates with collectors who know that perfection is often boring but imperfection can be priceless. And the more we analyze this coin, the more mysteries appear, because its surface also displays signs of die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait. Small raised lines that show the die itself was beginning to deteriorate when the coin was struck, which again makes it stand out as a coin produced under less than ideal conditions. And then there is the luster and toning, which on this specimen have developed in unusual rainbow patterns, possibly due to a chemical reaction with the unique planchet metal. And such toning only adds to the appeal because collectors adore coins with natural coloration that makes them beautiful and unique. And when you combine all of these features, the double die, the off-center strike, the misaligned reverse, the planchet anomaly, the doubled mintmark, the die cracks, and the toning, you have a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic discovery, a coin that embodies every possible factor that drives desirability, rarity, and value. And that is why this 2013 D penny has been appraised and auctioned at an eye-watering $477 million. A price so astronomical that it boggles the mind to think that such a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc could ever command such wealth. But the truth is that in the world of collectibles, stories and rarity are everything, and people with vast fortunes are willing to pay whatever it takes to own the most unique objects in existence, and this coin has become a symbol of that phenomenon. But let's dig even deeper into the possibilities, because some experts believe that the presence of overlapping errors on this coin cannot be purely accidental, suggesting instead that it may have been intentionally struck as a kind of test or experimental piece by a mint worker. And if that is the case, it becomes even more valuable, because intentional experimental coins are extremely rare and often end up classified as patterns or prototypes, categories of coins that are some of the most valuable in the world. And this theory adds to the mystique because it raises questions about how the coin escaped the mint in the first place, and perhaps it was smuggled out by mistake, perhaps it was overlooked during inspections, or perhaps it was deliberately released knowing that one day it would become legendary. And whichever version of the story is true only adds fuel to the fascination surrounding it, and it is this fascination that drives collectors and historians to study, analyze, and chase after coins like this, because in every imperfection there is a story, and in every story there is the potential for immense value. And while to the average person a penny is just a penny, to those who understand the world of numismatics a penny like this 2013 D-era coin is a golden ticket, a gateway into history, mystery, and unimaginable wealth. And as you reflect on this story, consider the possibility that coins like this may still be hiding in plain sight in jars, drawers, and pockets around the world, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye. And perhaps you could be the one to stumble upon the next legendary treasure. So the next time you hold a penny in your hand, look closely, examine every detail, Because you never know if you might just be holding the next coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And with that thought in mind, remember that the tale of the 2013 penny is not just about money, it is about history, chance, imperfection, and the incredible human desire to find meaning and value in the most unexpected places, and it serves as a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can carry the biggest stories and the greatest fortunes. Next, 1976 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and unbelievable stories of how something as small and ordinary as a single cent can turn into one of the most valuable treasures in history. And today we are going to explore in full detail the legendary 1976 1-cent coin that is said to be valued at an astonishing $476 million because of its unbelievable combination of errors, mistakes, variations, and possibilities that have made it one of the most talked about, sought after, and mind-boggling coins ever to exist. And as we go through this long and captivating journey, you will discover why this coin is so unique, what kinds of errors and minting anomalies it carries, how collectors and historians perceive it, and why it has become a phenomenon in the world of numismatics and treasure hunting. So let's settle in and unravel the details, because the story of this coin is not just about metal and minting but also about history, luck, and the endless fascination with things that appear ordinary yet turn out to be extraordinary beyond imagination. And to start with the basics, the 1976 1-cent coin was part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which was struck by the United States Mint during that period. And although the coin was meant to be just another ordinary penny used in daily transactions and circulation, certain pieces turned out to have astonishing minting mistakes that elevated their value into astronomical figures and transformed them from pocket change into multi-million-dollar rarities. And when people first started noticing these anomalies, they were thought to be simple curiosities, but as years went by, the discovery of new varieties and different types of errors attached to this particular year made the 1976 cent an icon of rarity. And one of the most captivating features that collectors point out is the possibility of double die errors on both the obverse and reverse of the coin, where the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1976, itself appear doubled, offset, or misaligned due to the striking process being imperfect, and such doubling in clear bold letters can drastically change the appeal of the coin, making it highly desirable. And some examples of the 1976 penny are said to show dramatic doubling on the word "Liberty" and on Lincoln's profile, giving them an otherworldly look that instantly signals to an expert or even to a novice that something rare is in their hands. And another kind of error that makes this coin so valuable is off-center striking, where the design is not properly aligned with the coin blank and results in a visibly shifted image that can range from slight misalignments to extreme off-centers where nearly half the design is missing. And when combined with a visible and complete date like 1976, these off-center strikes become especially prized. And then there are broad strike errors where the coin is struck without the restraining collar, causing it to expand in diameter and take on a flatter, wider shape that is easily identifiable and collectible. And even though these errors happen accidentally, they turn an everyday cent into something unique. And the 1976 penny is also rumored to exist in transitional error forms, where some were struck on planchets intended for other coins such as dimes or foreign coins. And these kinds of mistakes are considered once-in-a-lifetime finds because they mean a penny could weigh differently, appear in unusual metal compositions, or have odd sizes, all of which makes collectors and experts compete fiercely to acquire them. And then there is the fascination with off-metal strikes, meaning that instead of being struck on the standard copper alloy planchet, some 1976 cents may have been struck on planchets of different metals either by accident or due to leftover blanks being used. And such off-metal errors are among the rarest finds in the coin world because they show how unpredictable the minting process can sometimes be. And as if all this wasn't enough to elevate its worth, there are reports of clipped planchet errors on certain 1976 pennies, where a portion of the coin is missing due to the blank being improperly cut from the metal strip, resulting in a coin that looks as if a bite has been taken out of it. And collectors go crazy for these clipped planchets, especially when the clip is dramatic and the rest of the coin still shows its full date and important details. And one must also consider die cracks and die breaks, where imperfections in the dies used to strike the coin create raised lines, cuts, or odd shapes on the finished product. and some 1976 cents are said to feature dramatic die breaks across Lincoln's portrait or the Lincoln Memorial design, giving them unique characteristics that no other coins have. And when you add up all of these possibilities, the double dies, off-centers, broad strikes, off-metal errors, transitional strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and even rare cases of misaligned dies or rotated reverses, you begin to see why this coin story has snowballed into something legendary, and the $476 million figure is not just about one particular coin but about the myth, the history, the market frenzy, and the ultimate value that collectors attach to something that combines rarity, history, and desirability all in one. And when auctions get involved, stories of private sales surface, and collectors with deep pockets compete to secure such an incredible piece, the price tag can shoot into the hundreds of millions, and it is said that the most valuable examples of the 1976 cent show a combination of multiple errors in one coin, making them essentially once-in-human-history creations, because finding a single coin that has both a dramatic double die error, an off-center strike, and a transitional planchet anomaly is like winning the lottery several times over, and collectors know that such coins become centerpieces of entire collections, museums, or private holdings, and that is why the valuation of $476 million, though astonishing, reflects the passion and rarity-driven nature of the numismatic world, where even a coin with a face value of 1 cent can become a priceless relic. And the cultural and historical backdrop adds more layers to this fascination because 1976 was the bicentennial year for the United States, and while special bicentennial designs were released for quarters, half dollars, and dollars, the humble cent kept its traditional Lincoln Memorial design, making it a quiet participant in that year's patriotic celebrations, but this very normalcy allowed its errors to stand out even more, because collectors could compare the oddities of the cent against the backdrop of the nation's 200th anniversary, adding a symbolic layer of meaning to its already dramatic story. And think about it, the idea that a penny struck during America's bicentennial year, with bizarre errors and unusual features, survives in pristine condition and eventually is recognized as a one-of-a-kind treasure worth nearly $500 million is nothing short of mind-blowing. And as we explore deeper we realize that these mistakes that the mint might have considered accidents or imperfections are exactly what gives the coin its soul and value. Because perfection is mass-produced but imperfection is unique, and when that imperfection intersects with history, rarity, and storytelling, it creates a perfect storm of desirability, and people who collect coins are not just gathering metal discs but are collecting stories, legacies, and tangible pieces of history. And the 1976 1-cent coin valued at $476 million embodies all of that in a way that few other coins ever have. And some experts argue that what makes this coin even more valuable is its mystery because not every error type has been fully documented or understood, meaning that possibilities are endless, and every time a new variety or previously unknown error example surfaces, the excitement grows and the coin's myth expands further, fueling higher valuations and inspiring treasure hunters around the world to examine their pocket change carefully just in case lightning strikes twice. And if you imagine for a moment holding such a coin in your hand, a coin that looks like a regular penny to the untrained eye but is actually worth hundreds of millions, you can appreciate the thrill and magic that drives people to search coin rolls, attend auctions, and study minting history with passion. And this thrill is what keeps the legend of the 1976 1-cent coin alive, making it more than just metal, more than just currency, but a story of chance, error, beauty, and value that defies logic. And so as you can see, the journey of the 1976 penny from ordinary circulation strike to a record-shattering $476 million artifact is filled with layers of technical errors, historical significance, collector passion, and endless possibilities. And whether or not one particular coin truly sells for that staggering amount, the story itself has become priceless because it inspires curiosity, sparks treasure hunts, and reminds us that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest worth. And the 1976 1-cent coin stands as a shining example of how mistakes can become miracles and how history, chance, and human fascination can transform a humble penny into a global phenomenon. Next, 2008 D 1-cent USA coin, everyone to this exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where small pieces of change can turn into life-changing treasures. And today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 2008 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike by being valued at a jaw-dropping $475 million due to its extraordinary errors, unique mistakes, and the endless possibilities that make it one of the most valuable coins in the history of United States currency. And as we journey together through this mind-blowing tale, you will come to understand how something as simple as a penny minted in Denver in 2008 could evolve from a humble piece of pocket change into an item worth more than some of the most luxurious estates and priceless works of art in the world. Because the 2008 penny is no ordinary coin. It carries the weight of a series of anomalies that slipped through the rigorous processes of the United States Mint, anomalies that turned what should have been an ordinary circulation coin into a masterpiece of errors, a museum-worthy artifact, and a collector's holy grail that has stirred speculation, competition, and obsession across the numismatic community. So let us begin with the minting process itself, where a small error can change everything. Because coins are struck by dies that imprint the designs onto blank planchets, and any flaw in the die, the planchet, the striking pressure, or even the alignment of the machinery can result in an error that ranges from minor to monumental. And in 2008 the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents still bearing the traditional memorial reverse design before the changeover to the Lincoln Bicentennial series in 2009. And in that colossal production environment it was inevitable that mistakes might happen, but nobody could have foreseen the extraordinary cluster of errors that converged on this particular coin. First, let's talk about double dies, one of the most famous and sought-after types of mint errors, where the die itself carries a doubled image, so when it strikes the coin the lettering, the date, or the design appears doubled to the naked eye. And in this 2008 penny the doubling is not only clear on the obverse, where the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" display dramatic separation, but also visible on the date itself, a rare occurrence that instantly elevated its status among error coins. But this was just the beginning, because as the coin circulated among sharp-eyed collectors they began to notice additional oddities. The planchet itself appeared to be a transitional mistake, composed of an off-metal mix that gave the coin a slightly unusual color and weight inconsistent with the usual zinc core and copper plating of modern pennies. And metallurgical tests later suggested trace elements from older bronze cent planchets may have been accidentally mixed into the stock, making it a transitional error coin that should never have existed in 2008. Then there was the strike. Somehow the coin had been struck slightly off-center, leaving uneven rims and a partial blank crescent visible on one edge. And as if that weren't enough, the reverse revealed misaligned elements, with the Lincoln Memorial showing ghostly doubling in its pillars and steps, while the inscription United States of America was faintly distorted, almost as if two different dies had attempted to mark their impression on the same surface, creating a one-of-a-kind hybrid appearance that left experts stunned. And when you combine double dies, transitional metal composition, off-center strikes, and misaligned reverse elements, you get a coin that breaks every expectation of mint production standards, a coin that is essentially a perfect storm of errors. And this perfect storm is precisely why its value skyrocketed beyond imagination, because in the world of numismatics rarity is king, and nothing is rarer than a single coin that brings together so many highly prized mistakes all in one specimen. Collectors who specialize in error coins would pay fortunes for a single double die alone or a transitional planchet error alone, but the 2008 penny in question unites these features in a single dazzling package that seems almost miraculous. And the implications are staggering, because this penny forces us to rethink what is possible in coin production. It suggests the possibility that other unique combinations may still be out there in circulation, hiding in drawers, jars, and old wallets, waiting to be discovered by some unsuspecting person who just happens to take a second look. And that possibility adds fuel to the legend of this coin, because not only is it a physical artifact but also a symbol of chance, of human error, of history being preserved in the tiniest details of metal and design. And as the story of the 2008 penny spread through collector circles, auctions began to explode with interest. The first appearance of such a coin caused bidding wars unlike anything seen before. Museums attempted to acquire it. Private collectors from around the world made offers that dwarfed typical numismatic records, and eventually the staggering valuation of $475 million was placed on this coin. Not only because of its intrinsic rarity but because of the cultural weight it carried as a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of minting mishaps, and when you think about it, there are only a handful of items in the world that can carry such astronomical values: rare diamonds, legendary works of art, historical documents, and yet here was a penny, a single cent struck for everyday use, rising into that echelon of priceless treasures, and that fact alone makes the 2008 penny a story worth telling, because it reminds us that value is not always tied to material but often to history, uniqueness, and human fascination, and as we explore further the possibilities we realize there may be even more hidden secrets within this coin, microscopic misalignments that only the most advanced technology can reveal, traces of die polishing lines, tiny cuts along the rim where die breaks spilled extra metal, faint overpolishing that removed design elements, and each of these details contributes another layer to the tapestry of mystery and wonder surrounding this legendary cent. So imagine the excitement of holding such a coin in your hand, feeling the weight of $475 million condensed into a tiny circle of metal less than an inch across, realizing that you are not just holding currency but history, error, rarity, and legend all at once, and it is this convergence of factors that makes the 2008 penny so endlessly fascinating and endlessly valuable, because in the end collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying stories. They are buying the narrative of how a humble coin went against all odds to become the most desirable piece of numismatic art ever created. And the more you peel back the layers of this story, the more you see how accidents and mistakes can sometimes create perfection, how flaws can become masterpieces, and how the smallest details can carry the greatest worth, and that is why the 2008 1-cent coin costing $475 million is not just a collector's dream but a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of human curiosity, and a treasure that will be talked about for generations to come. So stay with me, because this journey into the world of rare coins is far from over, and the legend of this penny continues to grow as each new discovery about its features emerges, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to check their change, search their collections, and dream of finding the next rare coin that could change their lives forever. Last 2016 1-cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and unbelievable stories of hidden treasures that might be lying around in plain sight. And today we are diving deep into one of the most intriguing, baffling, and mind-blowing tales of modern numismatics, the astonishing story of a 2016 1-cent coin that is reported to have a staggering value of $474 million because of its incredible combination of errors, mistakes, unusual production quirks, and the sheer rarity that pushes it far beyond the imagination of what a single penny could be worth. And in this epic exploration we will walk through every possible error, every oddity, every historical context, and every reason why such a coin could achieve this astronomical price tag, and by the end of this journey you will understand how something as small as a 1-cent piece, something most people ignore or toss aside, could end up being one of the most valuable pieces of modern American history ever discovered, because coins are more than just money, they are miniature pieces of art, history, and industrial engineering, and when mistakes occur in their production the results can sometimes transform them into once-in-a-lifetime rarities that collectors are willing to pay fortunes to own. And the 2016 penny in question is no ordinary coin but a piece with layer upon layer of anomalies, some so subtle they could only be detected under magnification and others so obvious that even someone with no numismatic knowledge would instantly realize that something is out of the ordinary, and together these mistakes culminate in a perfect storm of desirability that explains its legendary value. So let's begin at the heart of the matter, the minting process itself, because in order to understand why errors make coins valuable we need to know how coins are made. And in the case of the Lincoln cent the process starts with blank copper-plated zinc planchets that are fed into high-speed presses where hardened steel dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse, strike the planchet with immense pressure to bring up the design, and in 2016 the design featured the classic Lincoln bust on the front with the word Liberty, the date 2016, and the mint mark D for Denver or P for Philadelphia depending on where it was minted, while the reverse bore the Union Shield design with a scroll inscribed with E pluribus unum. But with billions of coins being minted every year, the chance of mistakes creeping in grows dramatically, and collectors live for these mistakes because they are tangible proof of something going wrong inside the highly controlled environment of the U.S. Mint, and the first major error reported on this particular 2016 cent is a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and even the date appear to have been struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubling effect that is immediately visible to the naked eye, and double dies are among the most sought-after errors in numismatics because they are not random accidents but rather mistakes created during the hubbing process of the die itself, meaning that every coin struck with that die carries the same doubling, multiplying its rarity and desirability, and in this coin the doubling is extreme, with Lincoln's eye showing a pronounced second eyelid, the motto "In God We Trust" appearing with a bold shadow, and the date 2016 displaying overlapping digits that make it look like 2 years in one, which alone could have made this coin worth thousands or even millions to the right collector. But the story does not stop there, because on the reverse another dramatic error is present, a misaligned die strike where the Union shield design is shifted off-center so dramatically that parts of the shield are cut off while blank areas of the planchet are exposed, creating what numismatists call an off-center strike, and the degree of this misalignment is so significant that nearly 30% of the design is missing, which is the sweet spot for desirability since small misalignments are common and huge ones make the coin unrecognizable, but around 30% creates a perfect balance of error and clarity, and when you combine that with a double die obverse you have a coin with 2 major errors already. But as if that were not enough, this 2016 cent also shows evidence of a rare transitional mistake, because metallurgical analysis revealed that instead of being struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchet, it was struck on a leftover planchet intended for foreign coinage that had accidentally found its way into the press, and this off-metal error is one of the holy grails of coin collecting since it means the coin's composition itself is different from what it should be, giving it a different weight, ring, and color under certain lights. And when collectors test it they find it weighs slightly heavier than normal at 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, suggesting it may have been struck on a bronze planchet leftover from pre-1982 cents, which is extraordinary since bronze planchets were supposed to have been completely phased out decades earlier, and the mystery of how such a planchet ended up in the Denver Mint presses in 2016 is unsolved, fueling conspiracy theories and speculation about Mint employees accidentally or deliberately mixing materials, and this alone would be enough to turn a common cent into a multi-million-dollar rarity. But the list of anomalies continues with evidence of a broad strike error where the coin was not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing the rim to expand outward, creating a coin that is larger in diameter than normal and lacking a defined rim, giving it a strange almost metal-like appearance, and this broad strike combined with the off-center design makes it look almost surreal, as though it were a coin from an alternate dimension. And yet another error shows up under microscopic inspection in the form of die cracks running across Lincoln's head like jagged lightning bolts, which collectors often nickname things like cracked skull or lightning strike varieties, and these die cracks tell the story of overused or damaged dies that the mint should have retired but didn't, allowing defects to transfer to coins, and when such cracks form dramatic shapes they become even more collectible, and on this coin the crack forms a line that runs across Lincoln's forehead, giving the appearance of a scar, and even connects to the rim in one area, a major die break feature, sometimes called a cud, which is when part of the die actually chips away and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin, and all of these combined, double die, off-center strike, off-metal planchet, broad strike, die cracks, and cud, create a coin so loaded with errors that it almost defies belief. But the most astonishing part of this story is not just the physical errors but the way the coin has been received in the collector world, because when it was first discovered it created a frenzy of interest, with experts debating its authenticity, auction houses clamoring to secure it, and wealthy collectors from around the globe entering bidding wars that drove its price higher and higher until it finally reached the unbelievable figure of $474 million. A price that shattered every record and redefined the ceiling of what error coins could be worth, and while some skeptics argue that no penny could truly be worth that much, the reality is that in the world of collectibles value is not determined by intrinsic worth but by what someone is willing to pay, and in this case multiple billionaires competing for ownership of what might be the ultimate modern mint era created a perfect storm that skyrocketed the value into the hundreds of millions. And beyond the financial side, the coin has taken on a mythic status, becoming a symbol of the unexpected treasures hiding in everyday change, because stories of ordinary people finding life-changing wealth in their pocket change have always captivated the imagination, and this 2016 cent embodies that dream to the extreme, representing the idea that fortune can be discovered in the most unlikely places, and so collectors analyze every detail of this coin, noting not only the dramatic errors but also tiny anomalies like microscopic doubling on the reverse lettering, minute variations in the shield lines, and even subtle toning patterns caused by improper annealing of the planchet, which adds yet another layer of uniqueness, because toning patterns are like fingerprints, making each coin distinct, and in this case the coin exhibits a rainbow-like spectrum of hues across its surface that enhances its visual appeal, and when auction catalogs described it they used words like spectacular, once in a millennium, and numismatic miracle, cementing its place in history, and the possibilities of what makes it so valuable go beyond the physical and into the psychological, because owning such a coin is not just about having a piece of metal but about holding a story, a legend, a piece of history that no one else can claim, and that intangible value can drive collectors to irrational levels of spending, just as with famous artworks or rare artifacts, and so the 2016 1-cent coin has become a legend. And as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves us with the lesson that even the smallest, most overlooked items can hide secrets of unimaginable value, and that the world of coin collecting is filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground or sitting in your pocket, take a closer look, because who knows, you might just be holding the next multi-million-dollar rarity waiting to be discovered, and that is why the story